This is Crypto Wealth, and today I'm going to give you a simple explanation of impermanent loss when it comes to yield farming. If you don't know what yield farming is, I have a video. I'll try to link it up here in the cards. I'll put it down in the description. And that is just a basic video that explains what yield farming is. But if you're watching this video, I'm assuming that you're trying to understand what impermanent loss is. I didn't realize how many people really didn't truly understand impermanent loss until a couple of days ago. I ended up doing this video right here. And when I did this video, the video was how I'm earning $1,000 per day yield farming. And I was talking about some new opportunities with the Pulse Chain Yield Farm Pulse X, which is doing phenomenal. I'm still earning several $100s per day. I encourage you to go watch this video if you would like. I'll put that up in the cards as well. I'll put the link in the description. Keep in mind, I'm earning $1,000 per day. That is legit. You can watch the video and see for yourself. However, I actually had a comment or two in the comment section. I had someone reach out to me on Twitter. My personal private invite-only Telegram group, I literally had people in all three places say, what about impermanent loss? Aren't you worried about impermanent loss? I saw somebody on Twitter comment, not on one of my tweets, on somebody else's. They're like, oh yeah, I don't mess with yield farming. You always lose money because of impermanent loss. And I thought, people simply don't understand what impermanent loss is. And I get it, because if you try to Google it, you find people on YouTube who either they oversimplify it, they don't explain it clearly, or worse, they do explain it, but the explanation is incredibly complex. So I'm going to try to make this very simple, and maybe I'm going to err on the side of too simple, but I want to give you a very simple explanation and understanding of impermanent loss and exactly what it is. And then I'm going to also talk about why I don't worry too much about impermanent loss and how you can avoid impermanent loss. But the number one issue is impermanent loss in most cases. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm a very biased cryptocurrency YouTuber. I am not a financial advisor. But the fact is, most people think impermanent loss is worse than what it is. It's important that we understand our risk and we mitigate our risk. I don't mean avoid risk, I mean balance risk. But if you don't properly understand impermanent loss, then it's difficult to balance your risk. Those of you watching my channel, I want you to be as informed as possible. I want you to be able to do your own research, and I want you to be able to take advantage of opportunities. I don't want you to miss out on an opportunity because you don't know yet. So at the end of this video, I believe if I do my job well, you're going to fully understand exactly what impermanent loss is. I want to touch on why people misunderstand impermanent loss. Liquid.com, very reputable crypto website. And if you read these sentences I underlined, the second sentence says, when you deposit tokens into a liquidity pool and its price changes a few days later, the amount of money lost due to that change is your impermanent loss. This explanation, this sentence is factually inaccurate. When you deposit in a liquidity pool, you have to deposit two assets. Let's just say that you deposit Bitcoin and Ethereum. If the price of Bitcoin goes down, that's not impermanent loss. The price of one of the assets you're holding went down. Impermanent loss, this is when you have a loss that decreases your dollar value return while investing in a crypto liquidity pool. That is larger, meaning the loss is larger than what you would have lost while hodling the exact same crypto assets. So where this definition is wrong, when you deposit tokens into a liquidity pool and its price changes a few days later, the amount of money lost that exceeds what you would have lost if you were just holding the assets in your wallet, not in a liquidity pool, would be your impermanent loss. In this diagram, 1,000 USD equals 1 ETH. The bottom, the two pentagons here, shows I've got $10,000 in USDC, I got 10 ETH, and in this example, each ETH is equal to $1,000. So I have a total of $20,000 in assets, and the dollar amount is irrelevant. I'm just trying to use round numbers to try to make this easy. If I go into a liquidity pool, and I take 10,000 USDC, and I take 10 ETH, and I put that in the liquidity pool, and then all of a sudden, someone starts buying Ethereum. What happens, there's an automated market maker, and this is where it gets complicated for people. There's this little automated market maker in here. The automated market maker is adjusting the price as people are buying it, and that there's a lot of complex math that goes into that, but essentially, let's just say the starting price is $1,000 per ETH. They buy an ETH, the price goes up by 50 bucks. So they pay $1,050. They buy 1 ETH, so you lose 1 ETH out of the pool, and you get back $1,050. They buy 2 ETH, the price goes up to $1,100. The third ETH, the price is $1,150. The fourth ETH is $1,200. The fifth ETH is $1,250. At this point, here's what's left in your liquidity pool. You now have the original 10,000 USD. You only have 5 ETH left. The current value of that 5 ETH, based on the last traded value of Ethereum, is 5 times 1,250, which is $6,250. The money that you made from selling that ETH being a liquidity provider, this is not including liquidity fees, which would be a small, tiny percentage of this. Liquidity fees are about 0.3% of the trade, but not including the liquidity fee, you would have sold all 5 of these ETH starting at 1,050 going all the way up for a total, 5 ETH would have sold for a total of $5,750. So if you do the math on that, $5,750 of USDC earned from selling ETH, 10,000 USDC total, $6,250 worth of ETH because your ETH has went up in value because the current value of Ethereum is $1,250 in this example. Your total US dollar value is $22,000. The question is, did you have any impermanent loss? Based on this explanation here, since you made money, you don't have any impermanent loss. The reality is you do have impermanent loss. Let me show you where your impermanent loss is. If you would have just held 10,000 USDC and 10 ETH in your wallet and you had not sold, the current value after the price of ETH has went up, your current value, let's grab a calculator, is $10,000 plus 10 ETH valued at $1,250. Do you see where this is going? $1,250 times 10 equals, your 10 ETH is now worth $12,500. Add, that's the current value of your ETH because each ETH is now worth $1,250. So 10 ETH is $12,500. Add 10,000 to that, $22,500. So your value, had you not went into the liquidity pool, you would have $22,500. But right here, you had an impermanent loss of $500 because you would have made $500 more had you not went into the liquidity pool. This is your impermanent loss. The same thing. If your token values go down, you lose a little bit more. But just because your token value, just if the price of ETH suddenly went to $900, you've been holding $9,000. 10 times 900 is $9,000. 10,000 USDC sitting here, that would have been $19,000. Just because you lost $1,000 on your HODL position doesn't mean it was impermanent loss. And if your liquidity pool went down by $1,000, that wouldn't be impermanent loss either. But if it went down, and it would probably go down a little bit more than $9,000 because of the way the automated market maker work, that difference is your impermanent loss. Impermanent loss is not as bad as most people think. Let me show you this. There's a great calculator. This calculator simulates impermanent loss. Let's just say that we have the Pulse token and we have USDC. Let's just say that the Pulse token goes up 100%. It doubles. Well, if we have $1,000 in USDC and we have $1,000 in Pulse, the price of Pulse doubles. Now we got $2,000. Our whole position made 50%. We started out with 1,000 and 1,000. The price of Pulse goes up by 100%. So we got 1,000 and 3,000. Our whole position made 50%. We only have 5%, 5.7% of impermanent loss. If it went up 200%, it's still only 13% impermanent loss. I'm going to show you more about why I'm not worried about impermanent loss. But the first reason I'm not too worried about it is because people don't understand, even if it does a 5x, that's 30%. But it's 30% on a 5x. So if I have $1,000 here and $1,000 here, and this does a 5x, that means I've got 5,000 plus 1,000, then I've got $6,000, and I'm going to lose 30% on that. I'm not going to care as much. I made $6,000. However, it's important to understand that we get paid fees. Part of yield farming is we get fees. And the fees many times will offset impermanent loss. So the first reason I'm not too concerned about impermanent loss is because it's really not that bad in most cases. Now, the Pulse token, many of us think that it's going to go up exponentially. I'm still not too worried about it. I'm going to show you why. If you come here, this is the Pulse DAI. This currently is getting an APR of 147%. This is the fees from trading. Now, some people get liquidity fees and liquidity pool APR mixed up with incentive token farming. Those are two different things. Let's just say that the Pulse token does a 5x. Well, that 30% impermanent loss is still going to be offset by 147. By the way, if the Pulse token does a 5x compared to DAI, the worst impermanent loss is going to be is that 30% in the calculator. That's the worst, because the reality is if it takes a year to get there and the price bounces around a lot, we're going to make a lot of fees along the way. So the worst is going to be is 30%. But currently, based on the website, we're getting 147% LP rewards APR. So that alone makes me not concerned. If I don't mind holding DAI and I don't mind holding Pulse, then I've got some risk of impermanent loss in this particular example. W Pulse is Wrap Pulse, by the way. And I'm oversimplifying all the math here because I just want you to understand. I'm not a mathematician. I'm not trying to be complicated. There's a lot of nuances here. I understand that. I just want you to understand mechanically what's going on here. I'm trying to be as simple as possible. The other reason I'm not worried, first of all, I think people overstate impermanent loss. Second of all, we earn LP fees that can help offset impermanent loss. Not always, by the way. If you see right here, this APR is only 17%. The APR is affected by how big the pool is and how many trades are. If the pool is really large and there's a small percentage of trades compared to the pool size, the APR is going to be low. If the pool is smaller and there's a lot of trades, then the APR is going to be a lot higher. So I'm always pretty aware of what my APRs are running. But the other reason I'm not too worried about it, in this video I was making $1,000 per day. I was making $1,000 per day by token farming, incentive token farming, more accurate. So let me just show you that. Again, you can go watch that full video to get the full details. But see these APRs? These APRs are very different. Here's DAI WPLS. Here's DAI WPLS. Here is paying 147%. This is from liquidity fees directly. These fees will be there, meaning it may not be this high. You will always earn fees from other people trading inside of this pool. These APRs are from the incentive token. You can harvest that. This is an extra token that's just given. It's similar to the sushi token on SushiSwap. Used to be the Uni token on Uniswap. I think the 1 inch token, they may do some yield farming with the 1 inch token. The whole idea is that incentive tokens attract liquidity. Why? Because these APRs are really high. These APRs are not prone to impermanent loss. These APRs go up and down on the price of the token, and they go up and down based on how much liquidity is in here. So if the token price goes up, this APR goes up. If a lot of liquidity comes in, this APR goes down. But right now, I'm getting almost 3% per day. Am I worried about a 30% impermanent loss? No, I'm not. I'm just not. Now, if you genuinely believe that Pulse is going to do a 10,000x this year, you probably just want to buy Pulse. My challenge is I like to invest, be right when I'm wrong. If I'm in this liquidity pool here, one of the reasons to be in this liquidity pool is because you can decrease your risk of impermanent loss if you're in two assets that are correlated. So in my example earlier, I think I mentioned Bitcoin and Ethereum. A lot of people, Bitcoin and Ethereum oftentimes move in a similar direction. Typically, if Bitcoin's up, Ethereum's up. If Bitcoin's down, Ethereum's down. So if you created an LP pair for Bitcoin and Ethereum, you would be at a lot lower risk of impermanent loss because those two assets move very correlated with each other. There's not a big deviation or a big spread. Whereas if you're in a stable coin and the price of one of them takes off straight up, for example, or straight down, that can be a big spread. Or worse, if you're in two tokens, hypothetically, if you were in these two tokens and this token, the ink token, the one we're farming, drops and this token goes up, then impermanent loss could be pretty big in that case. I mitigate my current impermanent loss by going in assets I think that are probably going to be closely correlated. These two assets are probably, it's still brand new, we don't know for sure, they're probably going to be closely correlated long term. It's hard to say, but that's what I think right now. Obviously, a lot of people think that there's $166 million in here. DAI and Ethereum, DAI is a stable coin, so I don't got to worry about the price dropping. USDC, same thing, I don't got to worry about the price dropping. But Pulse price could go up. But if it does, I'm offset because I'm earning fees and I'm getting APRs right here as well. I'm not too terribly worried about the Pulse token going up, to be honest with you. I'm just not. I'm making really good fees and I'm earning a really good APR. Now, price goes up and I've got $5,000 in here. I'm still going to make a profit. I would not make as much profit if I was holding all Pulse. But also, if Pulse pulls back strongly, I'm going to lose money, but I would not lose as much as if I was holding Pulse exclusively. The main reason to go into a yield farm is because you believe in the underlying assets and you plan to hold them for a long time. Two things above all else help prevent or stop impermanent loss. Well, three things. These APRs for farming the incentive token are always temporary. Usually the incentives end. But that helps, first of all, that makes it a no-brainer. But the other one is the fees. So the longer that you're in a liquidity pool, the more fees you're going to earn. The reason they refer to it as impermanent loss is because the loss is not always permanent, but typically you make fees to eventually cover impermanent loss. Now, keep in mind, we are only talking about the price difference that exceeds what you would have already lost had you been holding the two tokens in your hand already, or in your wallet. I say in your hand because I have this visual of holding 50% in one hand, 50% in the other. We're talking about holding these two tokens in your wallet. If the price goes up, whatever the impermanent loss is, only that little bit of loss, like we showed in our example, it was in this example was only $500. And this was an extreme example because we showed the price going up really, really fast on every single purchase. Typically, the price goes up maybe a percentage point or less, depending on how much they're buying. It's almost not even noticeable if you purchase one ETH that the price goes up. However, impermanent loss still occurs. In our example, the impermanent loss was only the $500 that we didn't get right here. But over time, the fees should make up that $500 and then some. That's why it's called impermanent loss. Now, impermanent loss does give the suggestion that you can't lose, but you can lose. If you end up going into a liquidity pool and one of the token rug pulls or whatever, you got to understand what happened. What's happening is the token that everybody's buying is coming out of the LP. The token that everybody is selling is going back into the LP. I always like that because at my core, I like the idea of being a contrarian investor. So when people are buying, I'm selling. When people are selling, I'm buying naturally inside the LP, and I'm earning fees the whole time. To recap, the reason I'm not worried about impermanent loss too much is because most people don't understand it. And because they don't understand it, they overestimate how bad it actually is. I'm not too worried about having a little bit of impermanent loss, particularly if one of the assets is going up. I always try to invest in assets I believe are going to go up in value. That way, the profits can also help offset impermanent loss. Fees I earn offset impermanent loss. Any incentive rewards, such as the ink token, farming ink token in this case, offsets impermanent loss. In fact, I end up I've got a massive profit. I'm way ahead of any impermanent loss. Second thing, I'm not too worried about it because if I'm not investing in stablecoin plus crypto asset like Pulse, then I'm going to be invested in closely correlated assets, or at least assets I think are closely correlated, similar to PulseX and Pulse. The way you end impermanent loss is time and incentive tokens and closely correlated assets. All of those things help mitigate impermanent loss. If you have any questions, put them down below. Also, if you're in my Telegram group, if this isn't crystal clear for you, reach out to me. Obviously, my Telegram, I don't publicly advertise it. It is currently invite only. If you want an invitation to my Telegram, make sure you go down and subscribe to my journey from $500 to $5,000 per month copy trading. I've got an update video going out a little bit later in the month. And in that video, in that email where that video goes out, I'm going to send out an invite to our Telegram group. So if you want a personal invite to our invite-only Telegram, go down below. Be sure to subscribe, click submit. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully now you have a far better idea of impermanent loss and you're better prepared to manage risk or to mitigate risk as a cryptocurrency investor. Thank you so much for watching. Decentralized cryptocurrency equals freedom. This is Crypto Wealth. I'm out.